What up, homeboys? I interrupted my very busy bastion of Twilight guide writing, but what in God's beautiful earth is going on with Blizzard? I don't mean the usual, okay? I am not gonna complain about the game design mistakes or the grid or that stuff. We beat that horse to death in this beautiful community of ours. I just wanna shine a light on perhaps the biggest example of how Blizzard is a terribly mismanaged, dysfunctional company. Now, there is this beautiful quote. I wish people in my close circle would have heard of it before, because they made a couple mistakes on this line, and it is that Charlie Munger, the guy that worked for Warren Buffett, he used to say that if a company will not survive mismanagement, then it is not a good business. And what is a better example of it than Blizzard, okay? What other company can do the things these people do and not go broke? Of course, I am talking about the developer interviews that we got the other day. Much love to Crix and much love to Scotty J, who played the best poker face game I have ever seen. I am not being sarcastic, I am not being hyperbolic. I had a hard time watching the interview. I cannot even imagine how I would remain composed being the guy interviewing them. Basically, there was an instant backlash as soon as they went live, the interviews. If you take a look at the comments, you would find all negative feedback. You would have a very hard time finding anything positive to say on it. I chose not to show the comment sections because I think a lot of people took it too far, but it is out there. I mean, Scotty J had to actually shut down the comment section because it was that nasty. I will not judge him for shutting it down. I mean, he was given the opportunity, okay? This is a good opportunity to get an interview with the guys that make the game that you make content of, and it wouldn't be a good look to have like everybody in there bashing on them when you are given like this privilege. As a matter of fact, I want people to actually salute Crix. I want people to actually appreciate we have him here because he didn't take it down and he actually acknowledged that it was a fiasco, this interview. He actually politely and respectfully, of course, but he was willing to acknowledge that this thing didn't go very well. And he's doing it for the viewer, okay? He's doing it for you, okay? Like, he's probably sacrificing an opportunity in the future by doing this, but he would rather do that than lie to you, the viewer. And I think that is very respectable. So great salute to you, my man. You did the right thing. Most people wouldn't have done the right thing. Now, I know what you're thinking, first of all, and against all odds, no, my biggest problem is not with the people that are in the interview themselves, because despite the fact that it would have helped a lot if they had a little common sense on them, for the most part, most of the problems in this interview is actually the fault of the PR team that sent them there. You see, if you take a non-PR person, let's say a developer, a producer in this case, and you make them do a press conference or an interview, the first thing you want to do in a company, especially one the size of Blizzard, is the day before you run them with a PR person, you sit them down and you talk through everything they gotta do, what you gotta say, what you don't gotta say, how you're gonna wear, the situation you're gonna do it, what you're gonna do when you don't know what to say. This is all common practice. If you are an engineer at a small cookie factory and they sent you to the cookie expo and you gotta do a 5-minute speech, you are probably gonna get run over by a PR person the day before just in case. Okay, so it is unfathomable to me that a $70 billion corporation wouldn't have done this stuff. Okay, so I lined up my expectations right here. For a $70 billion corporation, this is very simple stuff. If a $70 million, that is 1,000 times less value, a $70 million company, this is all a basic concept that everybody understands. This is common practice. They got 1,000 times more resources, so let's see what happened. What are the problems? First of all, they sent the wrong people, and I am not talking about them as individuals themselves. I am talking about they sent a social production director, whatever that means, and a game producer on Cataclysm. And I am sure they play an important role in how Cataclysm runs. They are gonna be the people that are responsible for making the game work, period. But they have probably no influence or say or in decision making of what happens with the content direction of the game. When you send a developer to do an interview with a content creator, they are gonna ask things like, how is the race gonna look like? What are the class balance changes that you're thinking of? Why did you do this thing with archaeology? Why didn't you do this thing with archaeology? People are very upset at archaeology. I don't have strong feelings on it because like you are gonna catch me dead before you find me farming 60 hours of that thing. But stuff like that, you know, content decisions. Those guys are not gonna be asking questions like what is the server architecture, what providers did you hire, how do you integrate Cataclysm into the launcher, That is what these people actually do. I believe that's what their job is, okay? They actually make the game function. Of course, very important. If they didn't do that, the game wouldn't run. But these are 100% the wrong people for when you want to do an interview with a streamer. It is not their job to figure out if archaeology needs to be changed or not. Their freaking job is to make the game work. Whatever game they are given, they gotta make it work. So when you see Creeks asking them why is archaeology in the state that it is, the best answer that they can come up is, well, people kinda like it this way, I guess, because they weren't present in the decision making of this thing. I think the coffee boy, the guy that sends coffee to Agren when he's on a design meeting, that guy probably has a better idea of what was going through Agren's head when he made that decision than these guys. Again, I choose not to blame the interviewees for these blunders because this is the PR team's fault. They sent the wrong department to answer these questions. The next problem is they didn't even prepare the setup for the interview, right? Now, I know for a fact behind these interview calls, they have somebody else setting up the call. I believe they do it through Zoom now. So they have like a person that lets the streamer jump in when everything is ready and then they pulls them off the call, that sort of stuff. So how come you didn't get that person to do a mic test, a sound test, the day before? The audio quality was really bad. The microphones were cutting off constantly. There were like issues with noise in the background. Granted, I assume they did these interviews at their home and making a brick wall sound good is very hard. I am not expecting a studio quality with SN7Bs like a proper streamer, not me, would have. But at the same time, there are some basic things, okay? Like, let them borrow a microphone from the office if they have to. I cannot believe I'm gonna praise the developers of Albion Online right now, but look at the way they do the conferences, a competing MMO. They have like their own little room in the company, much smaller company than Blizzard, and they just send the developers to do the interview there, with a proper microphone, a proper room, whatever the heck. I am sure that Blizzard has 20 conference rooms that they can use for this. These guys are not sound engineers, they are game producers, and listen, if you're doing a radio show and you got a calling show and you got people calling to you, it is hard enough to convince those people to talk into the microphone when they speak, for Christ's sake, okay? So if you just let them out there and you expect to get premium quality sound from them on their own, you're already doing your job wrong. Like, whoever is on charge of the interview, the PR, the call, whatever, that guy should have been his job to make sure that they had everything they needed before. It is very clear that there was no preparation whatsoever in this. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't want to be there, those guys. But somebody up the chain of command, for whatever reason, they thought that sending Agren or whoever is actually a designer, they didn't want to send them for some reason. I don't know what goes on in that place anymore. And yes, I guess I finally gotta acknowledge this is thumbnail material, and that is what people are talking about the most. I don't think it is the most fair thing to be talking the most about this, but how do I put this respectfully, okay? How in your right mind do you think it is appropriate to go into a press conference for your company wearing a spiked choker and black lipstick? I understand you want the developers to dress casually for the interviews. This is not an oil corporation we're talking about, but they are not SoundCloud rappers or whatever the heck they are trying to do. You still have to keep the smallest amount of seriousness into your job. You gotta look like you actually care about this interview. This is not the place to be playing dress up, okay? If they let you go to the office like that, that's perfectly fine. I don't really care. But when you're gonna put yourself in front of the media, you don't do this. When you do stuff like this, it is like you're trying to be distracting on purpose. And granted, I think people took the name calling way too far. There are a lot of things that the people are too fixated on the hair, stuff like that. That's the world we live in nowadays. But I assure you, all they had to do was put on a normal shirt, and that would have been fine. Nobody would have batted an eye. No accessories, no weird stuff. The worst thing you can possibly do to a brand that is not even yours is to tag your own urban tribe or whatever you want to call it in front of it. There is connotations to that. You're putting people are taking this as a politics problem now when they see that stuff. Is it fair that people are going to be mean to you because you like dressing in a certain way? Well, no, it's not fair. But this is the PR world, and if you're going to do PR, you're going to have to do it right, or you're not going to do PR. Granted, I do not expect the PR team to go and tell you, do not put a cat in your head, that looks very bad, don't do that. But for the most part, it's common practice. It is their job to tell them, don't wear chains, don't put on weird accessories, actually don't put any accessories, period. Dress casually but in a sober manner. That's the kind of stuff they teach. When you're doing a conference, you're trying to get people to talk about your game, not to talk about what the heck you put on. So Blizzard saw that it went very poorly. It went so poorly that they had to do a surprise second round of interviews with Nora Valeta, which I think is Agren's second in command, like the second highest designer in the ranks or whatever you want to call it, to try to damage control the situation. I won't go over these interviews too much because they went as they are supposed to go. It is not like this is Blizzard's first press conference and this is like a new concept to them. That's why I am so shocked that they made these kind of mistakes. I like Von Hard, he was a surprisingly very good interviewer, shout out to the man, he got the opportunity and he made the most of it like a king would do, so much love homie. But if you want any answer as to how easy it would have been to make this right, just look at his comment section, because most of the comment sections, despite people saying that the WoW player is impossible to please, if you look at his comment sections, the feedback was positive. People were happy to see this. Granted, I think most of those people didn't see the first interviews, thank God, but it didn't take that much to leave a positive impression. Just answer questions that like you care, and because you actually were the person that took those decisions, that's not their fault, of course. Don't let your fan blow into your laptop microphone built-in that you got, and for the love of Christ, if you're representing a $70 billion corporation, do not dress up like you're going to a concert of the insane Cloud Posse in New Orleans or whatever the hell that is. I just wanted to put it out there. It is not just the game development or the management or the marketing, the rotten parts of Blizzard as a whole. Blizzard is incompetent and mismanaged in many, many ways. And to no surprise, PR is one of those. As a matter of fact, I think the only actual work that the PR team did this time is tell them, oh, hey you gotta go to an interview tomorrow. And that's all the involvement the PR team had in this PR task. They thrown them into the dogs, and this makes everybody lost in this situation. The interviewers, the streamers, they got a bad interview to show for it. That's not a great way of taking that opportunity. The interviewees are now being blamed for all the evils in Blizzard, like they are somehow responsible. The guy that makes the servers work is now responsible for the bad design choices and not fixing archaeology and whatever. Decisions that we know for a fact they didn't even have a participation on, and Blizzard is looking very, very bad. And this is all 3 days before the launch of Cataclysm. Why, before a major launch of a new expansion, is the PR team asleep at the wheel? I just felt like I had to make this video because as much as I think this is unacceptable, this is also very fascinating to see. Like again, if a company will not survive mismanagement, it is not a good business. Blizzard is an amazing business. If it were any other company but Blizzard making these mistakes, they would be over by now. They can time and time again put a drunk person behind the wheel and never crash. Subscribe, leave a like, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.